guys, so thanks to On Yer Bike up in Aylesbury, I've got my hands on this for a few days. It's Kawasaki Z650, and you ignore all the big, bulky, massive crash protection on it. It's the training schools bike. So yeah, because of that, they know it's going to get dropped a few times, so they've put all of that on there just to stop paying out on parts. Really, I'm guessing they had to learn that lesson the hard way. But yeah, obviously it's a 650cc engine. It's the baby version of the Z1000, which has got a reputation of a bit of a hooligan bike. This has got a bit of that. It has definitely got a little bit hooliganism. Right, let's start off with styling wise. I like this. I really like the styling of it. The matte green finish on the tank, the grey and black everywhere else, it sets it off nicely. I really like it. Obviously, this would need to go if you had it, because that's every bike does it now. Massive tail, because everyone knows you're going to put a tail tidy on anyway. And the exhaust as well, that would it's not bad. It really isn't a bad sounding exhaust, to be honest. It's got some beef to it. Smells a bit odd though, so not sure about that. That's probably just the oil needs changing. Like I said, training bike, they don't get looked after, they get used and abused and thrown down. And yeah, the little I'm not a massive fan of hidden exhausts, like the little ones that don't have the can coming out the side, but I actually don't mind that. They've done it well, I think. But yeah, the looks of it, I really do like the looks. So yeah, let's go through the controls on it quickly. You've got kill switch, start, high beam, low beam, indicator, horn, hazard lights. I love hazard lights. None of the bikes I've had have ever had hazard lights. I just love being able to do that. And you got this button here controls the trip. So you've got odometer, trip A, trip B, back to the odometer. Button there, time, miles per gallon, average miles per gallon, range left in tank, back to time, temperature up the left hand side, gear position indicator in the middle, fuel gauge up the right, and the rev counter along the top. And again, I like the rev counter. The half analog look to it, I really do like it. The fact the needle it moves, it leaves a little trail behind it as well. I don't know why, I just really like that. So right, let's get moving, shall we? It's a very torquey little engine. It's got lots of power down low. It does run out when you get up the top a little bit. But that's what happens with engines. You either have a lot of top end, not a lot of torque, or loads of torque and nothing at the top. So yeah, riding position. It's very strange, actually. You look at it and you think, oh, that's just going to be a very comfortable riding style. It's fairly aggressive. For the sort of bike it is, it's actually a surprisingly aggressive riding style. Your legs are very, very comfortable. Pigeons, I hate pigeons. But yeah, the legs are fairly bent back. They're not overly aggressive. They're more comfort style. But the seat is so big that you can sit right at the front of it, like with you pressed into the tank, and it's very upright, it's very commuter style. But if you go to the back of the seat, all of a sudden you're leant down, you're aggressive. And then the handlebars, they're so far out in front of you. My arms are pretty much dead straight riding this. In fact, they're pretty much in line with my shoulders as well. So my arms are just straight out in front of me, which is, it's okay. For me, it's uncomfortable because of a crash I had a few years ago. I did serious damage to my left shoulder. So having my arm at that sort of angle, that height and that far out in front of me, after about half an hour it does start to hurt. But my right arm is fine, so if you've never messed up your collarbone or anything, this bike is going to be very comfortable. Okay, so this has got twin discs on the front, one disc at the rear, and it's got ABS. So let's just have a little 60. I forgot to change gear. 60 down to 30 like that. Really good. It does help if you actually put it down the gears. It doesn't like doing 30 mile an hour in 6th gear. It's very, very uncomfortable in that respect. But even just the back brake on its own, the ABS works really well. It does vibrate quite a lot, but on the RC390 that I used to have, the ABS on the rear just lifted your foot up, and it basically meant you had no rear brake. But with this, it still lets you brake, it just judges how much you need to brake and flickers around it. So I've never liked ABS in the rear. It doesn't, if I need to use my rear brake, I need to use the rear brake. I don't like it deciding how much I need. ABS on the front, big fan. Big fan. I love ABS on the front. It's saved my arse quite a lot. And again, the ABS on the front of this with the twin discs, it gives you some seriously good braking power. Engine braking, fairly average. I prefer engine braking than using the actual brakes. So I want engine braking that if you flick it down a couple of gears and let go of the clutch, I want it to snap. I want it to suddenly feel like you've put the anchors on. But this, it's calm. It slows you down. But like I said, it's got a lot of low-end grunt to it. Very long legs as well in the gears. Very, very long legs. I mean, in 2nd gear, it will do 60 mile an hour. Which is ridiculous. Because it means in this country, the national speed limit is 70. Like the quickest you can ever legally go is 70 mile an hour, which means on this you only need the first 3 gears. But like I said, the legs are very long between gears, but because it's got all that torque low down and not much at the top, you don't ever really use all of the gears. You end up just pinning it and changing. Keeping it in that optimum rev range where the power just keeps coming. Because once you start getting up to about 7,000–8,000 RPM, it does start to trail off a little bit. But if you keep it around 5 or 6, it's just pumping power constantly. So I talked about the riding position. How comfortable is it? Arse-wise, it's got a very, if you feel the seat, it's very soft. It feels like a very soft, comfortable seat. But once you've been on it for a long time, it does hurt. You've got to keep readjusting yourself on it occasionally. And the seat is very, very wide at the back and narrow at the front as well. So to get your legs down onto the ground, easy. I'm about 5'10" and I can flat foot this thing with both feet. I think if you're over 6 foot, you'd probably be more comfortable on it just because of the distance to the handlebars. But if you're under 5'10", if you're about, well, if you're a little bit shorter, you'll still be okay because of the cutout on the side of the seats where it gets narrow. Your legs don't go out and down, they just go straight down. So flat footing isn't a problem. In fact, I know why they use, like, On Yer Bike actually use this as a training bike, because it is so smooth. All the controls and everything are just very soft. The clutch is so smooth, it feels like you're just moving something. It doesn't feel like you're actually engaging a clutch, which sometimes can be a bit bad because it's hard to find the biting point, which is very, very far back at the moment. But it's a very light, soft clutch. The throttle is it's not stiff that you have to yank it, and it's not so soft that you accidentally pin it. It's that perfect middle ground where it's, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know that you want to open it, and then it will open, and it will open very well. Oh, this is fantastic parking here. The indicator switch as well is very, it just glides side to side. You can just tap it and it's okay, we'll turn this way now. So as a training bike or a learning bike, like your first big bike, this would be very good for it. Like I said, it's got loads of power low end, it runs out of the top, but you're never going to need to do over 120 mile an hour. I mean, we all want to, but where can you do it? In this country, in England. So like, I prefer torquey engines than high revving engines. I prefer something that gets me up to speed quickly, rather than something that will just keep pulling. I like that instant, the grunt it has. I'll be honest, I've been trying to think about things that I really don't like about this bike in the last couple of days, and I can't really find anything that I hate. I mean, the ABS on the rear, still not a massive fan, but at least it works better than some bikes. The riding position, because it is very far away, very wide, it feels like power. Not as in engine power, it makes you feel powerful, because all of a sudden it makes you go quite big and wide. It makes you get a sense of power. So I'm not a massive fan of the riding position, but the feeling it gives you I like. The mirrors, I've got nothing to say about the mirrors. They work and they're not hideous. Alright, let's get up to motorway speeds. Okay, this is a bit more than motorway speeds, but it will do it. Obviously it's got no screen on the front, so there's no wind protection. It hits you right in the chest. It does push you back a little bit. But again, you can solve that with a screen. You just buy one and bolt on. I think you need undo and 4 bolts and stick it on, that's it. And it will happily cruise at 70, 80 mile an hour. And even at about 70, you've still got a bit of pull to get you past things, and then a bit more. I think the lack of engine braking is something I really don't like. That it does annoy me. I want powerful engine braking. But other than that, there's nothing that I particularly hate about this bike. I honestly don't know who this bike was aimed at. It's in the middle. As a naked bike, I mean, it's mid-range CC, mid-range power. It's restrictable down to an A2, so I think that might actually be who it's aimed at. Someone that wants the Z-ness of it, because it definitely feels like a Z, a Z1000, a Z900. They're unmistakable for what they are. So it'd be someone who wants a Z, but they're on A2, they're going to be doing their full license soon. Get this, restrict it down to an A2. You don't actually lose that much power when it's restricted down to an A2 either. It will still pull, and it will still pull well. And then once you've done your full license, you take the restrictor off, you've got a full powered bike. You've got a baby Z. This is definitely a middle of the range, a middle of the road bike. There's nothing overly fancy about it, but there's nothing overly cheap. I mean, the mirrors are solid. Normally the mirrors are kind of crappy, but I can't fault them. They work really well. They're not hideous. They're decent. The levers, normally manufacturers put cheapy levers on it because they know, oh, people are going to put short levers on it anyway. What's the point of spending money on levers? But these are adjustable. They've put adjustable levers on as standard. All the switchgear and everything, it's nothing special, but it works. There is nothing about this bike that shouts cheap or budget. So what's my overall feeling on this bike? I like it. I think it's a very good bike. As a learner bike or a training bike, it's perfect, because like I said, everything's so simple on it. It's all smooth. The throttle is a little bit bitey, but that's because it's a very torquey engine, but it's a smooth bike. If you were just to go out and buy it because you wanted one, you'd have fun on it. It is a fun little bike. I say little bike, you sit on it, it feels big. It doesn't feel like a little bike. And like I said at the start, styling wise, I really like it. I think they've done really well styling it. Yeah, flat foot, bent knees, easy. I'd love the green paint they've used on it. The matte, like the matte kind of pearly look. I can't describe it. I just love that green. Another little styling thing I really like is the rear brake light. When it's just on, when you've just got the lights on, it's a Z, and then when you brake it turns into a cross, an X. I really like the fact it's just got a Z on the back of it. But like I said, as a starter bike, perfect. As it's just a really good bike. When did a McDonald's appear there? What? Oh, I'm going there later. So yeah, there's nothing more I can really say about this. I like it. Personally, I couldn't own it every day because of my shoulder and the position of the bars. I couldn't ride it every day. But if I put some flat bars on it and dropped it down a little, got a little more sporty, I could see myself having one of these. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope this has been helpful to anyone that was wondering about these bikes. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Please do God tell me I'm recording. I am. Good.